There was a lengthy line of stopped automobiles blocking the road when Thomas arrived. It was a situation he had never seen before. He approached an irate animal warily, prepared to stir up trouble among the automobiles that were in its way. He felt really depressed since he had come too late, but then he saw something else on the way. Thomas Owens, a state trooper, gripped the driving wheel forcefully. Car horns were blaring more often, and traffic was growing worse by the second. People were growing impatient as the big animal on the road became frightened. Thomas moved his car ahead carefully. Then he caught sight of something concealed in the woods. During his childhood, Thomas Owens was fascinated by vehicle chases. He wanted to catch a glimpse of a pursuit on the news every evening after school. While justice was delivered in the majority of these hunts, several had fatal endings. In most cases, law enforcement was able to apprehend the offenders and restore safety and tranquility to the roads. Thomas's mother, however, was worried about his fixation with fast-paced pursuits. A mother's instincts are typically correct. Thomas's father had to take the automobile keys away from his mother on his 16th birthday. The thought of her only son using a motor vehicle alarmed her. Perhaps he would endanger himself. What if someone else was hurt by him? "Thomas, it's a little town. You can bid the vehicle farewell if we get even a whiff of your carelessness," she said. Despite his youth, Thomas had responsibility. He was aware of the risks associated with the roadways, but he never thought his parents would overlook them. Thomas cherished his freedom. He drove to his part-time job at his neighborhood grocery shop, picked up his pals from school, dropped them off at home, and then drove back home. He took care to keep himself secure. However, he became alarmed when he returned one day and found his mother's car gone. He found out later that she had been in a hit and run. He was devastated, unable to understand how someone could do that. He spent hours each day at her side for the following 3 weeks. His life was profoundly affected by the experience, which altered his future trajectory. Thomas's pals couldn't help but tell him that they were planning to go to college during his final year of high school. Their aspirations to become physicians, scientists, educators, and athletes were lofty. They weren't shocked when he told them about his intention to join the state unit. He stopped going to their car chase marathons after his mother was hurt. The reality of reckless driving was all too known to him. He did, however, undervalue a few aspects of the job description. Thomas had been a police officer for years, but he had never witnessed anything like this. Cars were backed up for kilometers, and there was a ruckus up front. He had no clue what scene awaiting him on the road that day as he sped past the gridlock. He felt, however, that whatever it was, it had to be something severe. Thomas initially believed that there could have been a problem with someone's car, but when he looked more closely, he saw why every automobile had stopped. He would never be able to forget the scenario now. Thomas began to shout when he saw that people were from their automobiles to investigate the disturbance. The total area of Bretton Woods is 700 acres. Given that the region is home to around 200 different kinds of birds, it is not surprising that the territory was designated as a protected wilderness. However, Thomas was about to come into contact with Bretton Woods' largest beast. Each risky encounter with bears might have a different ending, and encounters with one specific species were all too often. Thomas was unprepared for what he was going to encounter, despite his extensive expertise. An large black bear was there, blocking traffic. She was crossing the crowded main road and striding briskly. As Thomas shouted for everyone to get back inside their cars for safety, the situation was in disarray. In these locations, bears often stayed to themselves. What made this one unique? With sheets of steel now protecting them, the drivers heard Thomas's warning cries and clambered back into their vehicles. However, Thomas had nowhere to go while he was on foot and exposed. Now all the drivers were in their automobiles waiting, frightened. She didn't appear to move, though. He made the decision to order everyone to back off. They had to make room for this amazing and terrifying creature. Thomas was able to get a better look at what was occupying this bear in the middle of the road as cars began to turn around. Pulling himself together, he took a step forward. He understood exactly why this bear did not appear to be afraid of people. Thomas moved closer for a better view. The bear has followers, he realized then. A quartet of cubs walked across the street. One of them resisted, but the other three followed their mother to the opposite side. To rest its legs, it sat down. She appeared to be becoming weary of waiting as this tiny man refused to move. Then this mother took an unexpected action. With her nose, Mama Bear started nudging the youngster back to his side. She demonstrated what to do to her young by walking gently to and from both sides of the road. Thomas was shocked by his good fortune. A bear with 3 cubs, much less 4, was something he had never seen before. But he realized something was off after seeing her fight for several minutes to get the cub to stand. One little cub was left to fend for itself as Thomas watched her head back to the tree's cover. His heart fell. Then he launched himself into action. Thomas hurried over to join the stricken cub. Then Thomas saw that the young cub was having trouble keeping its eyes open. After attempting to stand, it fell. There was a terrible problem. He rushed back to his squad car after cradling the ill cub in his arms. Was he going to arrive in time? Thomas kept thinking about the mother bear while traveling to the New Hampshire Fish and Game Center. Was leaving her kid to fend for itself in the wild really justified by the fact that it was ill? A litter of 2 cubs was the norm for bears. 4 cubs were almost a miracle, although 3 were uncommon. Naturally, some were more powerful than others. After racing to the center, Thomas was greeted by nurses and veterinarians who put in a lot of overtime. Later on, Thomas learned the reasoning for the mother bear's choice to leave her ailing youngster. Despite receiving excellent nursing care, the cub had little chance of surviving without the right assistance. She would have endangered the other cubs in the litter if she had remained with the ill one. The little community became aware of Thomas's rescue. Officials then broke some more startling news to Thomas. There were other abandoned babies besides this one. The mother bear was accompanied by 5 cubs. Thomas was fully aware of his obligations. The dogs would definitely smell out the cub if they were unable to find it. They quickly found the 5th cub, which was ill, not far from where its mother had crossed. They were hungry, wet, and freezing, but they were able to seek assistance in time. The center had to make a difficult choice. When the cubs were healthy, what were they supposed to do? They couldn't be bottle-fed indefinitely. Fortunately, the brother and sister bears recovered rapidly, and their caretakers thought this was due to their constant companionship. Since most rescued animals are anxious and lonely, it takes them some time to recover. Love is the greatest healer, as demonstrated by these 2 bear cubs. The facility intends to return the cubs to their mother when they are healthy enough. Thomas has also been keeping a careful eye on them. As a state trooper, he has witnessed a lot of odd stuff. While working, he never imagined that he would save not 1, but 2 bear cubs. Had he not taken quick action, these 2 cubs may not have made it out alive. Despite his primary focus on defending Carroll, New Hampshire inhabitants, Thomas has made sure to involve everyone in his efforts, even those who are 4-legged.